Hello and welcome to Auto Shenanigans. How the devil are you? Have you had a good week? My name is John. Thank you very much for joining me for another exciting episode of Secrets of the Motorway. This week I've come to Darlington in County Durham, or maybe it's Yorkshire, I'm not exactly sure. It sits on the border between the two. And actually I'm not really in Darlington, I'm to the southwest of the town where we find today's motorway of joy, the A66M. It's about 2 miles long, has no junctions or notable features, so f*** knows what we're going to do. It all started in the 1960s with the construction of the A1M, more specifically a section known as the Darlington Bypass. It ran between today's junctions 56 and 59 of the A1M, and back then it was one of 3 sections that made up the A1M. Before the Darlington Bypass or A1M was built, the A1 used to run right through the middle of Darlington, but with traffic increasing and Darlington being poorly laid out, they opted to build a new bypass. So as part of the A1M's construction, they planned and built an additional spur here at Darlington, which was numbered as the A66M, which opened to the public in 1965. So what do we have? Well, it's a simple 2-mile-long spur that connects the A1M to the A66. The junction with the A1M is free-flowing, but limited access, where you're only able to join the A1M south from the A66M. At the time of construction, it probably made sense, but today, I'm not so sure. What would be really good is access to the A1M northbound from the A66M, because currently, if you want to head north, you have to drive through Darlington, which sort of makes a bypass pointless. As mentioned earlier, the A66M has no notable features, which in itself might be a notable feature. It's remained as per its original 1960s design since opening, with only minor changes made to things like the road signs over the years. It doesn't even have street lighting. Exploring the fields on either side of the A66M reveals a couple of interesting things. Firstly, the long-abandoned wild duck farm. Early census information suggests that it was lived in around 1861, but it could have been lived in for longer than that. There's just no record of it. Likewise, there's no records to say when it was abandoned, but looking at the state of it, I'd say a long time ago. To the north lies High House Farm. It's certainly not abandoned, but once upon a time it was the site of the Cleasby Lime Works and Quarry. Whilst details on the quarry are non-existent, what we do know is that this area, along with others in northeast England, is rich in magnesian limestone and dolomite. For centuries we've been pulling this stuff out of the ground because it's very useful in several industries, from farming to glass making, and in more modern times the rock has been used as an aggregate in road construction. Back to the motorway, and Moor Lane crosses over the A66M via a fairly normal bridge, but not only is this bridge a fantastic example of 1960s concrete design, it has a story associated with it that I've not seen or heard of on any other motorway bridge. In 2017, it was reported that a gentleman got caught short, shall we say, and ended up relieving himself over the side of the bridge onto the passing traffic below before getting into his vehicle and going about his day. Oh, very silly. Right, come on, grow up. Ultimately, nothing came... For fuck's sake. Right, come on. Ultimately, nothing came of it. There were no accidents, and it seems like he got away with it, despite there being several witnesses. In around 2016, the westbound carriageway was resurfaced, and it's interesting because for the first time they utilised a special resurfacing machine that had never been used on any motorway in the UK. The previous method was to plane off the old road surface, chuck it in a truck or 10 and send it off to wherever it goes. Meanwhile, you get more trucks to bring in new materials to be laid as the new road surface. This machine does away with most of that process. Like before, the old road surface is planed off, but then the machine breaks it down, essentially recycling it. The broken down old road is mixed with new materials and then relayed by the same machine, all in one easy process. The benefit is that you need far fewer trucks to bring in new materials, and you don't need any trucks to take away the old materials. Not only that, it speeds up the whole process, leading to much shorter road closures. Happy days. However, it's said that the lifespan of this recycled road surface is 10 years, so a few years from now it's all going to need replacing. Again. Right next to the A66M is Cleasby Lake, a leftover of another quarry, although this one operated in more modern times. Not only is there magnesian limestone, there's a lot of sand and gravel in this area, and in this case that's what they were digging up. The quarry opened in the late 1950s, possibly to extract materials to build the A1M and the A66M motorways. It remained open until the early mid-2000s, at which point it was returned to nature by flooding it and turning it into a fishing lake. The motorway comes to an abrupt end at a roundabout, which seems excessively large considering the small road that it connects to. On the other side of the roundabout, the A66 crosses over the River Tees on a bridge, which from the car doesn't look like much. To fully appreciate it, we need to see it from below. The Blackwell Bridge is of sandstone construction and has 3 arches. It was built in 1832 and at the time offered a much quicker route into Darlington. There were only 2 other options if you wanted to cross the river, both some distance away at Piercebridge and Croft-on-Tees. The bridge's construction was welcomed by all because it seems people had been attempting to cross the river here on foot, leading to disastrous consequences. Perhaps in preparation for a new motorway in 1961, the bridge was widened with an additional lane, and on this occasion it looks like they did a bloody good job of it. Rather than take the usual 1960s approach of concreting everything, an effort was made to keep the bridge as original as possible, and indeed they made exact replicas of the existing stonework to use. Interestingly, on one side of the bridge we find what was previously a toll house for the bridge. However, it hasn't accepted any money since 1879 and is now a private residence. And there we are then, guys. That's all I've got for this week. Thanks very much for watching. I hope you liked the video. If you did, there is of course a button specifically for that, and if you haven't subscribed already, please consider doing so. That would be wicked sweet awesome. Enjoy the rest of your week, whatever it is you get up to. My name's John, you've been watching Auto Shenanigans, and I'll see you guys next time for another exciting episode of Secrets of the Motorway. Until then, take care, bye bye.